Day. Point of order, John McDonnell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wish to raise a point of order. You may be aware that the Honourable Member for Islington North and I were called for interview by the Metropolitan Police following our participation in a demonstration in January calling for peace and justice for the Palestinian people and an end to the genocide in Gaza. It was alleged that we failed to follow police restrictions on the protest. This is untrue, and at all times we followed police instructions. We can now report that the police have dropped the case against us and there will be no charges. The reason for this point of order is that in the correspondence to our solicitor, Martin Howe, the Metropolitan Police informed us that our case was referred to the Crown Prosecution Service because as MPs we were to be held to have, and I quote, a greater culpability. This is an unacceptable practice that flies in the face of the principle that we are all equal before the law. I wish to place on record my concern about this behaviour by the Metropolitan Police.
I am grateful to the Right Honourable Member for giving notice of his point of order. It is not a matter for the Chair, but he has put his point on the record. Can I suggest that he takes the matter up with the clerks, who will be able to advise him how to pursue this matter further? Point of order, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Further to the point of order raised by my friend, the member for Hayes and Harlington, I wish to also place on record my thanks to our solicitor, Martin Howe, and many others that worked very hard on this case, because the implications are obviously very, very serious. If there are elements in the police and possibly in the Crown Prosecution Service who want members of Parliament to be held to a different standard of account than the general public, that removes us from the normality of law in this country, and I think that would be a very, very bad step indeed. And I will take your advice, of course, and follow the advice that you've just given to take this up with the clerks, because us being held to a different standard would be a very bad thing. We have to all of us, have the right to take part in public protests about human rights abuse, about war, about peace, about anything else. That is what democracy is about. And I saw this whole effort as being a means to try and silence the democratic rights of everybody in our society by picking on us two as members of Parliament. And I'm grateful for the decision that's been made today, but like the member for Hayes and Harlington, I don't intend to let it rest just there.
I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Member for giving notice of his point of order, and as he knows, it is not a matter for the Chair, but he has put his point on the record. Point of order, Sir Edward Lee.
I think it might be useful if a Member of Parliament who's not often taken part in demos in central London to intervene at this point, just to show that opinion in this House of Commons is absolutely united. In various parliaments, indeed in most parliaments in Europe, MPs have immunity from prosecution. We've never had that system here, and we've always proclaimed what is very much the British way, that members of Parliament are no different from any other member of the public. If they do wrong, they will be held to account, but they should not be subject to some greater test of culpability just because they're members of Parliament. So I just wanted to rise as somebody who's not in the same party as the honourable gentleman and often has rather different views, just to show that what he's just said here has universal support in this House.
I thank the Honourable Member for his point, the Right Honourable Member for his point of order, and whilst it is not a matter for the Chair, he's put his point on the record and he's been heard by the House. Point of order, Sir Christopher Chirp.
Further to those points of order, would it be possible for you in the Chair to explain why it's not a matter for the Chair? Surely, if MPs are going to be deemed by the Metropolitan Police to have greater culpability than other citizens, that must be a matter for the Chair and for the Mr. Speaker. Why should it be delegated to the clerks?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his point of order. However, it is not a matter for the Chair, but if it's a matter of privilege, he should raise the matter privately with the Chair.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And before starting my remarks, will make a declaration of interest that my husband is a farmer and that we do have a small stipend to pay to the IDB in relation to flood risk. My constituents in Sleaford and North Highcombe, Madam Deputy Speaker, enjoy some of the most beautiful countryside the United Kingdom has to offer. Our hard-working farmers reap the benefits of some of the best agricultural land in the country for their crops. Unfortunately, living in this area also brings some environmental risks. Many Lincolnshire MPs centuries ago held the office for Commissioner of Sewers for the county. This job sounds unglamorous, but it was very important, bringing with it responsibility for managing the country's waterways and drainage and protecting livelihoods and lives from the risk of flood damage. Now, I'm not suggesting that I take on that role myself, but the historic risk has only become more acute in recent years. Land usage has intensified, our climate has become more volatile, and greater pressures have started to affect our natural resources. Our county has suffered from flooding caused by overwhelmed drainage systems, as well as flooding caused by excessive river levels. The effects on people have magnified too. Some people whose homes flooded were out of their home. They didn't just lose possessions and the right to ability to live in their home, but they lost their ability to live in their home for quite a long period of time, some not returning home for more than a year. Last week, I had the pleasure of visiting Haington Millfield Academy as it reopened, formally reopened, following significant flood damages last year. That closure had major effects on the children there. They had to be bussed to different schools around the county, within the trust, and significant measures had to be taken to restore the school. Now, I'd like to put on record my thanks to everybody involved in that. The community really pulled together for those children, and the department as well, both the Department for Education and the Department for DEFRA, worked very hard together to ensure not just that the school has been repaired, but that flood measures have been put in place to try and prevent these things happening again. So the school has now got flood doors in place, so they can put on the school to prevent flooding coming in through the doors. And they are having some work done over the summer this year in preparation for the autumn rain to protect the outside environment, which includes bunding around the playing fields and a special garden at the back of the school on the higher ground, which will seek to absorb some of the water if the rain overtops the back again. At the same time, unfortunately, as this great work has been going on, the new councillors under the direction of Reform have chosen to abolish the County Council Committee dedicated to managing flood risk. And I'll have more to say about this later. In opening the debate, I want to make a simple point. My constituents deserve to live in safety, to go about their work and education without severe disruption from climate events. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect their lives and livelihoods. And we need to make sure that recommendations are being followed up and maintenance work is being done on time. We also need to make the most of local experience and expertise and not undo the good work started under the previous government towards fostering collaboration between agencies and local people. Many communities across my constituency have been affected by flooding in recent times, and they deserve to have their experiences shared. In North Scarl, for example, Madam Deputy Speaker, residents faced huge disruption in 2024 when heavy rainfall onto existing wet ground caused flooding at Milldam Dyke. The local authority report on this event found that poor maintenance of the local watercourses had contributed to flooding, as did problems with the surface drainage systems. As I saw when I visited North Scarl in December that year, cooperation amongst different agencies is key in tackling these kind of events. Lincolnshire County Council are responsible for cleaning gullies and maintaining drainage. The EA have responsibility for ongoing maintenance at Milldam Dyke. And meanwhile, local groups like Flood Action North Scarl have contributed valuable local knowledge and experience. The Environment Agency have upheld their end of these shared responsibilities as set out in the flooding report and have engaged the local community by providing maintenance updates. They spent around £71,000 on maintenance in 23-24. But since the spending review published this week revealed a cut of 2.7 in DEFRA budgets over the review period, can the Minister assure my constituents that the Environment Agency will still have the money to continue to maintain these dykes going forwards? And what will the Minister do to ensure transparency from councils? While updates from the EA are relatively easy to access, Lincolnshire County Council's flooding project website simply lists their own actions following each flood report as ongoing. My residents need more clarity than this. In Sleaford itself, Madam Deputy Speaker, residents face similar problems when field